There is a certain feeling that we all know that comes to you in different ways, something called stress. Under the umbrella of this feeling or word, there are many different feelings like anger, anxiety, hopelessness, depression, and even feeling tired could bring stress. And all this could make you feel stress one way or another. We have to say that stress is extremely dangerous, and if you have it long term, it could even kill you. Stress is not an emotion that only humans feel, because animals feel it, and even plants feel it. So that shows us that stress is completely normal in nature, and if you get to know it a little bit better, maybe you can control it better. When you look at somebody's face, and it doesn't matter what kind of culture they have, but with their face, you can get an assumption on what they're feeling like. Like you see this man, it's clear that he's sad. Look at this woman, she's stressed out. This guy is happy. What I'm trying to say is that by looking someone in the face, you can get an understanding on what type of emotion that person is feeling. And that's the same for animals. Most psychologists believe if a sad person fake smiles, and that means forcefully smile, that might help them feel a little bit better. But this is on how you look. But what about our emotion? That's all that matters anyways, right? Humans have 10 different types of emotions, and that's with you from day one. Happiness, feeling surprised, sadness, anger, disgust, humiliation, shame, fear, guilt, and excitement. Some scientists say that there should be 2 more feelings added to this list, and that's pride and love. But other scientists say no, because that's a mixture of other feelings in the list. But the human emotion is much more complicated than what we're talking about. It's kind of like a degree that has a lot of symbols, and whichever direction it goes, it's a different feeling. Like if it goes very much to the right, you might feel happy. If it goes very much to the left, you get very depressed and sad. Just like we said, this is still too simple to explain emotions, because a gauge like this is not going to show it. You need something like this graph. There are positive and arousal feelings, and you have a depression and relaxed feelings. So when you treat this like a graph, you can kind of get an idea on what type of emotion a person could be feeling at that time. If it goes to the right and up, you're gonna feel delighted and excited. But if it goes to the complete opposite direction, you're gonna be feeling depressed and sad. If it goes to the left, you're not gonna be feeling good. You're gonna be more sad and angry. Some psychologists define stress as a way of battling the negative feeling in your head rather than an emotion itself. There are some people that treat any problem that's in their way like it's nothing, and they don't allow the stress of that job to control them. But some people are the opposite, and one little thing could get them stressed out, and that doesn't allow them to succeed whatsoever. So this is why they say how you battle the feeling of stress is what matters, rather than the stress itself. There's no way that you can't find an animal that does not have stress. This is something very natural, and it actually helps you more than you think. Stress is the main factor in the flight or fight response. This feeling has been with us for a very long time, and millions of years for other animals. Like a tiger has this. There are some times that he has to choose if he wants to fight or run away. Throughout history, this was a very important emotion for humans. Don't pay attention to nowadays where society is somewhat safe. Even 100 years ago, there could have been an army marching towards your city, and they were gonna devour the entire population. And this feeling was very important for you, in case if you wanted to fight or run away. But since nowadays that feeling is not needed as much as you think, the feeling still remains in your gut and it haunts you sometimes. But how we battle the stress is correspondent in today's society. Like for example, you're late to work and there's traffic. Of course, you're gonna be stressed and angry. And this stress is somewhat of a fight or flight response. Back in the day, this response was so important because it made you more aware and it made you ready to make the right decision at that time. When you're in war, your heart rate starts to rise, and that causes you to fight better and be more aware and focused. But the war is not there anymore, so you don't need to fight, but the feeling is still there. That's why when you're stressed, it's very hard to sleep. Not only is your heart very active, but your brain is. Since stress raises your heart rate, it's very bad if you have chronic stress. And nowadays, a lot of people that have heart disease or die from a heart attack, they've had chronic stress for a very long time. Just like we said, back in the day, this was important and it wasn't the stress we're used to now. It saved you rather than damage your internals. But now it's the complete opposite. And instead of helping, it damages your body. Just like we said, there's a form of stress called chronic stress, and that means you have this emotion for a long period of time. Chronic stress is the one that weakens your heart, raises blood pressure, and while it does all that, it's damaging your body parts, especially your organs. You can kind of compare chronic stress as a form of depression. When you stress this hard, you're eventually gonna get depressed. When someone has chronic stress as a young age, they could have terrible back problems, but they're only 30 years old. And you wouldn't see something like this where a person has back problems at age 30 just because of thinking too much. You might ask, what does stress have to do anything with back problems and back pain? It has a lot to do with it, because when you put too much pressure on your heart, there's a shortage of blood to your other body parts, and that causes pain. And the longer you hold that stress in your body, the more damage you do. Either way, stress is part of our DNA and it will always be with us. But how will we control it and use it in a positive manner? The biggest buddy to stress is pessimism and negative thoughts. That's like pouring gasoline on top of a fire. But what's the enemy of stress? A positive outlook on life and positive thoughts. These two kill stress. There are some people that use stress to their advantage. Like for example, they use that feeling to motivate themselves to work harder and be grateful for what they have. And that goes for anything. For entrepreneur, a business owner, someone going to college. This will help you tackle your tasks better. But on most people, stress has a very negative effect on your head and body. It makes you more tired and makes you more lazy. Your blood pressure is up. Every thought in your head is negative. And all this is like putting your car in reverse and going downhill. And at the end, there is a cliff where you fall into the pit of depression. But you don't have to worry about this. There is always a way out of this pit, and use that stress to their advantage. When someone doesn't allow stress to control their life and have a more positive outlook, that's like getting a very powerful car and climbing a big hill. All these we said is very important in the way you think. Some psychologists love to use this as an example. If you allow stress to control your life, it's like having a big dog that controls your life and you don't have the strength to defeat it. But the more positive thoughts you have, the smaller this dog gets. And then eventually it gets so small that you can put a leash on it and have control yourself. Never forget that this dog will always be with you. It's just how you treat it. That's what controls the size of it. If you give negative energy, it gets bigger, but more positive, it gets smaller. There are some other ways that could help people. Stop using cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs. That will help out a person tremendously if they are using. If someone eats only junk food and doesn't eat anything healthy, that's gonna put a huge negative effect on their body. Working out is actually one of the best drugs. And we're not talking about going to run 5 miles. Even some stretching in your room can help. Try to have a good amount of sleep per night. And this depends on your body, because some people need 6 hours, some need 7 hours, and some need 9 hours. It just depends how you feel when you wake up. And if you try all this and you still can't control your stress, it's best if you talk to your doctor. But talk to a trusted doctor that just doesn't want to give you a medication to let you go. If you talk to a trusted doctor, there's always hope that there is help. Like for example, I had a friend that had trouble with stress and depression. When he spoke to his doctor, he suggested that we should do a blood test before I give you any type of medication, because there's a chance that your hormones could be off or you're lacking some vitamins in your blood. And if everything looks good, maybe we can prescribe something. After the blood test, they realized that there was something going on with his thyroid that was causing the stress. And with a simple medication, everything was good to go. We wish you all the very best.